Hi 10th kids! I'm so happy to be back here with you again this week. I'm Sandie, a volunteer teacher from our East Vancouver campus. Last week, we learned about King Solomon's temple. We saw how God showed up and his presence filled the temple. But how did we get there? Let's review a favorite book, The Garden, the Curtain, and the Cross. Here it is. The Garden, the Curtain, and the Cross. A very long time ago, right here in this world, there was a garden. In the garden, everything was wonderful. The world was full of laughing and playing and smiling and fun. There was nothing bad, ever. There was no one sad, ever. And best of all, God was there. Hello, Adam. Hello, Eve. He had made it all. He was in charge of it all. He loved it all. People could see God and speak to God and just enjoy being with God. God's here. He wants to walk with us. Again, how cool is that? Yay! I bet it's going to be even more amazing than yesterday. It was wonderful to live with God. But then, one day, the people did a terrible thing. They decided they didn't want to do what God said. They decided they wanted a world without God in charge. God calls this sin. Sin spoils things. So sin has no place in God's wonderful garden. God said to the people, "You can't live with me in my garden anymore." And he sent them outside. To show the people they had to stay outside, God put some warrior angels in front of the garden. The angels were like a big keep out sign. Now, things were sometimes bad, and people were sometimes sad. But people still kept sinning because they didn't want God to be in charge. So no one could come into God's wonderful place. God said, "Because of your sin, you can't come in." God wanted people to remember, it is wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in. So he told the people to build a special building called his temple, where he would live. In the middle of the temple was the most wonderful place in the world, the place where God was, with nothing bad and nothing sad. It was very exciting. But then God told people to put a big curtain around this wonderful place. The curtain had pictures of warrior angels on it. It was a big keep out sign. For hundreds of years, the temple curtain reminded people that God said, "It is wonderful to live with him, but because of your sin, you can't come in." Babies became grown-ups and had babies, and those babies became grown-ups and had babies, and those babies became grown-ups and had babies. Well, hundreds of summers and winters passed, and the keep-out curtain stayed in the temple. So here we are at the temple, hundreds of years after King Solomon. What new detail did you notice about the temple from the story? Did you notice the curtain? What picture was on the curtains? What do you think? Do you remember? There were warrior angels or maybe cherubim. These are the same guys that God put in front of the Garden of Eden to protect the garden. What changed since Solomon's time? There were new people all around. Remember, this was 400 years after King Solomon. Babies became grown-ups, and they had babies, and then the babies became grown-ups, and then they had babies. What had remained the same? The curtains remained up in order to keep God's people safe. That tells us one thing. God's people were still sinning. God's people were still choosing hurtful paths rather than the loving God who set out for them. In the book of Ezekiel, we see God sending his people messages. Turn back to me. He tells us this. He tells us, don't you see that your path, it will just hurt you. He says, turn back to my good and loving plans for you. Ezekiel, who the book is named after, was one of God's messengers. He is what the Bible calls a prophet. God spoke to the prophets, like Ezekiel, and gave them messages that they had to share with others. That was a gift. God saw his hurting people, and he sent messages after message and after message. God spoke through Ezekiel for over 22 years. The people just weren't listening to his messages. In fact, they were harming each other. God saw his hurting people, and he sent message after message after message. God spoke through Ezekiel for over 22 years, but people just weren't listening to his messages. In fact, they were harming each other. They were making fun of God. And they, like Adam and Eve, they wanted to control their own lives and go along their own paths. So God respected their wishes. Ezekiel 10 tells us that the presence of God left the temple. Isn't that so sad? So why does he do that? Does God abandon them? Will God leave us if we make too many bad choices? No. God is so kind and he's so patient, but God knows when he needs to try something different to win us back to him. God recognized that his messages and warnings, they were not working with a new plan. So he set forth a new plan. In Ezekiel chapter 11, 16 to 20, we read, I sent some of my people far away among the nations. I scattered them among the countries, but for a little while I have been their temple in the countries where they have gone. I, the sovereign Lord, will gather you back from the nations where you have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel once again. When the people return to their homeland, they will remove every trace of their vile images and detestable idols, and I will give them singleness of heart and put a new spirit within them. I will take away their stubborn heart, and give them a tender, responsive heart, so that they will obey my decrees and regulations. Then they truly will be my people, and I will be their God. People were scattered and sent away from the land, and the presence of God was still with them. For a time, God himself became their temple. God did not abandon them. If you have your Bibles, we're going to invite Lawren here. He's from Creole Kids. He's just joined Creole. Hey, Lawren.
Hey.
And we're going to invite Lawren to read. And it's from
Psalm 139, verse 7 to 10. How can I get away from your spirit? Where can I go to escape from you? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I lie down in the deepest parts of the earth, you are also there. Suppose I were to rise with the sun in the east. Suppose I travel to the west where it sinks into the ocean. Your hand would always be there to guide me. Your right hand would still be holding me close.
Thanks, Lawren. That was great. So just like this psalm by King David, it says, God's promise remained with his people, and God continued to heal their brokenness, and he continued to draw them back to him. Have you ever felt like God was far away from you? I want you to take a moment to think about that. Sometimes it may feel like God has exited the building, but I want you to remember our memory verse in those difficult times. Let those words sink deep into your heart as we sing them together.
Hey 10th kids, Pastor Marissa here. Glad you could join us again for our memory verse song. As you can see, I don't have my guitar or my piano in front of me. Instead, we will be learning our memory verse song with our hands, our feet, and our voices. With us today, we have Teacher Ava, and we have Teacher Wesley. Feel free to join in once you feel like you've caught on. It's a lot of fun. And it goes like this. 5, 6, 7, 8. Be their God and they will be my people. I will live with them, I will be their God and they will be my people. I will live with them, I will be their God and they will be my people. I will live with them, I will be their God and they will be my people. Ezekiel 37, verse 27. Ezekiel 37, verse 27. Let's sing that again. Yeah, I will live with them. I will be their God and they will be my people. I will live with them. I will be their God and they will be my people. I will live with them. I will be their God and they will be my people. I will live with them. I will be their God and they will be my people. Ezekiel 37, verse 27. Ezekiel 37, verse 27. Here we go. You can do it. Down, up. Almost there. Whoop. Great job, guys. Awesome job, 10th kids. Way to go. We'll see you again next week.
Hi 10th kids, I'm Pastor Julie from our East Van campus. Welcome back to Activity Corner. This is where we'll have some fun making crafts and doing activities together. This month, we have been talking about the presence of God in the Old Testament. For today's activity, you will need the following: an activity book, some markers, pencil with an eraser, and our circles that can be found in the back of our activity book. Let's take our activity book and we'll turn to November. We'll be drawing in these 2 circles that you see here today. Do you remember the 2 circles that you cut out back in September? Do you remember what they represent? That's right. The blue circle represents heaven and the pink circle represents earth. Today, we're going to have a chance to stretch our imaginations more and draw the temple. First, I want you to write heaven on the top left, right above the circle. And we're going to write earth on the right circle. So in this middle space here, we are going to draw a temple. So just do your best. I'm going to start with a square for my temple. I'm going to draw some pillars on the side. Like that. You can use your eraser if you want. And then I'm going to do my top of my temple like that. And our temple needs a door, right? So let's draw a door together. Like that, a big door. And now I'm gonna color. I'm gonna color mine yellow. Like that, and I'm going to color the inside orange. You can color whatever color you want. This is my temple. Now let's take our blue and pink circles and place them over the picture. What do you notice? Do you see how the middle becomes purple? This is a place in the Old Testament where heaven and earth overlap. Isn't that neat? It becomes purple. As we continue on with our lessons, we are going to continue to learn more about heaven and earth meeting. Well, that's it for today, 10th kids. I hope you have a great week. Bye.